Mic check, 1, 2. Thank you, Atlan. Confirming. I thought my mic was broken. It's like acting really, really funny today. So, really need to replace this thing. How are you doing today, my friend? And of course. There we go. Sounds clear? Good. Fantastic. Good to know. Music's usually pretty quiet to begin with. I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. Good. Thank you, Chim, for confirming. Good to get double confirmation. So yesterday I had a day off, so I decided to knock out like a ton of things around the house, just random quests that needed to be done. And oh my goodness, got me kind of exhausted. But it was worth it. The house is looking really good. Nice, Matt. Yeah, I think we're all kind of getting super excited and hyped and anxious for it. We're getting closer and closer every day. I will say the devs have admitted it's been quite a challenging feature to master and get just right. I think mostly because they wanted it to be something that our community would be proud of and happy with, instead of, something that may not necessarily fit that mold. By the way, how's everyone doing today? Welcome back to Mapmaker Monday. My name is Mac. I am the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making utility and immersion tool available on Steam. It allows you to build maps for your tabletop gaming campaigns in settings such as D&D or Pathfinder, just a couple examples. Primarily fits the fantasy aesthetic, though it can lean into like early Western or steampunk, maybe even like Victorian or kind of industrial-ish. Anyway, I hope everyone had an amazing weekend. Today's stream will be focusing on building up this map here, which is quite an extensive map. We've been building it a little bit at a time each week. The current map size is 85 by 82. That is squares, so you look here, the grid is quite extensive. I wanted this to feel like a large map, but also feel like it's been around a long time and has kind of been added to over time. Hey, Half Ogre, how you doing today? So, for those that have tuned in over the past few months as we've been building this map about a hour each Monday, it's kind of grown and slowly, just kind of randomly, I would add. We don't really have a plan. We just kind of add things as we go. But it has turned out quite nice so far. We have the entry over here, which is where we started. Little pond, some hedges, a road, gates, fences, kind of an entry arch. We have some graves here that are, kind of medium, like let's just say middle of the road in quality and space. Here we have, this is a private plot, gated, fenced off. I'm assuming for royalty or something to that kind of distinction. You come over to the chapel here. Beautiful chapel with a parking area so they can facilitate funerals and also Sunday Mass. It's a large chapel with lots of seating, and of course a 3-story bell tower, which I built by hand because our current build doesn't support multi-level in the room tool, only the first level. So you would have to build the upper levels using objects, which is what I did here. So I disabled collisions. I found a wall that was matching under freestanding walls that matched the lower levels. And piece by piece, I built this out. So let's just say I put one of these down, and then when collisions are off, you can raise the wall up. Once you kind of get it in place at the height you want, it's pretty easy to start duplicating this one and working around that. And that's essentially what I did for each level. Everything above that first level, first floor of this room is objects. So it's pretty neat. And around this amazing chapel cathedral is a beautiful garden and walk, like a paver path that I built by, just meticulously by hand. Laid down every object, so it was kind of custom. Behind this is the private plots. Well, not private, you can walk through them, but they're the plots for the, martyrs, priests, priestess, clerics, paladins who have served this clergy over the years. And it's, this place has been around like a millennia, so quite old. Probably have a lot of people. Nice, half ogre. That's cool. Were your players excited to see the live view? So last week, I started working. Well, for the past few weeks, I've been extending out this area, kind of planning out the grave areas and fencing off roads, and it's quite an extensive area. Just this whole back corner, and this will all be pauper graves when it's all said and done. So I'm going to be packing them in like sardines, which it's going to take a while because, as you can see, like this is a lot of graves packed in a very small space. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 14, 18, 21, 23 in this section. Oh, Matt, I get it. I do that all the time. But the thing is, my distraction is the map itself, but also chat, which isn't a distraction. I'm here to answer questions, AMA style. So if you have any questions related to DA, any of you can, let me know in chat, and I will do my best to provide you real-time assistance inside Dungeon Alchemist on the stream, so you can see it done or learn how to do it, in real time. Now, the thing is we also start talking about other things, other things going on in the Dungeon Alchemist community. We talk about, things going on in the gaming, like tabletop gaming. We talk about people's campaigns and stuff. So often we get distracted. Hey, Primal Edge Designs, Callie Syke, welcome back, welcome back. But this map here is grown quite extensively considering it's all built by hand. Very little of this was done with the room generation tool or the environment generation tool. Back here, you have the caretaker's property, this back corner. So the caretaker's cottage and kind of garden and greenhouse. They're a bit of a green thumb. They have to be to manage this massive property and keep it alive. Anyway. Got a good turnout on YouTube today. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate everyone on every platform, of course, but I just, kind of thought that was interesting how we've got a bunch of people chatting on YouTube, so thank you. Appreciate y'all being there. So I'm trying to think of what to do here. I was thinking of just putting some plants because space is too tight to really put graves. Though I could put like a grave here and a grave here, really just pack them in anywhere they'll fit. I don't know. So thinking of maybe moving this just the littlest bit to kind of straighten it up. Maybe the caretaker's a druid. Yeah, I like to think he may have like druid craft or, at least a couple of spells. That's a good assumption, though, Spellbound. My chat on Twitch seems to think the caretaker has nefarious purposes. Like he may be like a necromancer or something. Hey, Raven, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, the caretaker's home is pretty much done. I might do some finishing touches on it later. Like, I always like to go through and I'll think of things later and add them. But for the most part, it is done. We, added some decor to his room, gave him a little desk and some books and, some wardrobe, a bathroom. Out here we have his living area and kind of dining. And a pantry packed to the nines with all sorts of goods. His garden is well tended and has all sorts of goods. Circle of Spores Druid, nice little combo wombo there, Spellbound. I didn't even think about that. That would work. He could be a necromancer and a druid at the same time. Why not both? But yeah, there's raised gardens, for like different veggies and fruits. And then, of course, the garden beds. And then lastly, over here, he's got like a pond and his greenhouse here, which is full of rare plants from different realms and regions, things that you can't necessarily find in the local region. And some of them are even dangerous, so they're kept in their own kind of quarters. Sean, can you tell me a little bit about your session? Are you playing online? Are you playing in person? The more I know, the more I can help. By the way, welcome to the stream. I like to think the cemetery is attached to a large city, or it's the cemetery for like a large city or region, And then over here, Raven, I added this little shed with like some hay and manure, and under the manure pile is a hatch hidden from prying eyes. So in person with like a TV tabletop or something to that nature? Or like, is that what you're saying there, Sean? First time question, long time lurker. First off, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Honestly, I've never heard anyone phrase it like that, and it's so radio. I love it. That's like so my generation. Long time listener, first time caller. Like, that's such a dead era type thing, Because like all DJs are like just tapes and AI now, basically. So welcome to the stream. Secondly, I'd like to say, ultimately right now it's a little tricky unless you take measures to kind of prevent it. So you as the DM, if you, place a token, you kind of have some ways to avoid letting people see over the walls, just kind of look at the base of the walls. You know what I mean? That's one thing I tend to do, is just kind of keep it at this height and then address rooms one at a time. The other thing is you do have the immersion ceiling, which grays out the sky so you don't see like the weather or a moon or something, which is kind of the default, which helps. And I'm sure a lot of people have looked at their buildings and seen this setting and gone, show ceiling. Well, wait, why isn't there a ceiling? There is. It's an immersive ceiling. It's not a roof. It just is kind of a visible block. Yeah, you're a broadcast engineer, so you understand smoke and mirrors all too well. So another thing to consider is we do offer, like on the Steam Workshop, our community has uploaded hundreds of roofing options, which allow you to cover up buildings There's conical ones, there's sectional pieces so you can build kind of custom. There's prefab roofing that you can just slap onto something that's the right shape. Now, with this in mind, this will cover that when you're in first person, and you can always pull it off when you're in top down. The last thing to consider is maybe just shortly our update. The next update we're offering, Fun with Objects, it will offer roofing. So when you're in first person, that'll no longer be an option. So basically, when you generate a structure, you can add roofing to it through the Room tool as soon as our next update launches. Honestly, I really haven't worked on this map that long if you break it down. Like, it's only like a half hour a week. So I've maybe worked on it for like 30 to 50 hours, somewhere in there. Which for a map this size seems pretty normal. Like, I know some of our really, like, intensive map makers that make really crazy by-hand maps. Like, Sailor Yugoth has told me he spent up to 100 hours in a map before. So it's definitely possible. If I did it just, like, day in, day out, it probably would have been done within a week. But this kind of breaking it down into sections, talking while I'm doing it, kind of talk show style, answering questions, definitely slows down the process. It gunks up the works. It's almost like I'm being sabotaged. But it's also shows the success of the show, you know? Everyone here on Mapmaker Monday hanging out, asking questions, vibing, learning about Dungeon Alchemist, hanging out with each other. Really, that's the point of this more than anything. By the way, speaking of our next update, let me show you all some kind of stuff with that. I've shared these clips in the last few weeks on our social media, but I'll share them again here so you can check them out if you haven't. So, Sean, I would say very soon it won't be a problem anymore. But until then, you do kind of have some band-aids. The workshop can probably fix you up really good. Alternatively, yeah, just selective camera, placement can really help. I filmed entire like videos where I've kept it down at a perfect level where I really only focused at like wall height, and it worked. But I've also seen members of our community like place images over or false roofing or object roofing. It works great too. And if you have any other questions, please let us know. But in this clip here, it shows you how you can transition between floors in a building. So there's this new UI piece up here in the corner, which has arrows that you can go up, down between the floors, or you can use the plus and minus key to jump between floors, which is quite cool. Dennis Berg and David Lynch over on Facebook. Thank you for the likes. Much appreciated. Hey, Rev. What up, bud? How you doing? This is true. Currently, I mean, like, for instance, in this structure here, Sean, like, I put freestanding walls on it, so it's a 3-story tower. So technically, when you're inside at, like, eye level, it kind of just seems like it really does go up pretty high. You'd really have to get up pretty high before you notice there's no ceiling. So maybe add a second level with the freestanding walls on some of your buildings, so it's a little bit higher, so you can look up higher without a second thought. Nice, Sean. That's cool. So what I would recommend, like, see how here there's a second level of a wall? If you go to the object menu, you can go to structural objects. Captain Crumbles, go ahead and ask away, and I'll answer your questions in a moment. So if you go to structural under the object menu, and then go to freestanding walls, right? Every wall type that's in this wall menu is available as an object, so they can be placed anywhere, they can be rotated, they can be raised and lowered as long as collisions are disabled, and they can even be rescaled up and down. So they're good for all sorts of purposes. So essentially what I did is I made floor 2 and 3 using freestanding walls. Great way to kind of get around it. So Captain Crumbles on TikTok asked 2 questions. I did not look at the patch notes. How many floors did we get? Well, the new update isn't out yet. What you're seeing here I built by hand using objects. This is something anyone in our community can do. It's essentially working around the problem with the tools in the system. So the next update, though, will include multi-level, which should be launching in quarter 2, hopefully, by the end of the quarter. So before the end of June, most likely. It looks like we're pushing end of June, though, right now, if I had to wager. I spoke with our lead dev about this, and he's thinking June as well. So that's kind of looking at the kind of window there. But what have I been told about flooring internally is if you use the multi-level tool on the room tool to generate flooring, as long as you're in an environmental biome, i.e. forest, desert, the ones that have terrain, you'll be able to do 5 floors up and 5 floors down. I'm not sure if that means you can do 10 floors up or 10 floors down if you don't do the other, like let's say you don't do any downward floors. Does that mean 10 up? I don't know. I think it only means 5 up, 5 down. So you can go underground, have multi-tiered underground structures. You can combine underground with like caving and natural structures. You can have multiple level structures going upward that can have flat roofing or angled roofing. Oh, nice. That was probably really cool. Sean, did you upload that map on the workshop, the pipe one? Nice. Callie Psych, that's smart because Forgotten Adventures is a huge repository of like PNG images, right? And those work amazingly in Dungeon Alchemist if you use the abstract objects. So you can place one of these bad boys down and then just place any of the Forgotten Adventure images in something like that. And it works for their tokens, it works for their mobs, it works for all sorts of stuff. Environment. It's kind of like kit bashing, like dungeon draft assets and inside of Dungeon Alchemist. It's pretty cool. Oh, you probably are saying that, but I bet you it's awesome. Did your players like it? Captain Crumbles, I'm waiting for that second question, by the way. Okay, let's put up some graves, shall we? So I want to kind of keep up with this aesthetic where I'm cramming them in like sardines over here, but I also need a pathway going down this way. So I think what I'll do is kind of start that pathway, so I'll have graves on either side of it. Like just boom, 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 all the way down. Maybe even more packed in if I can. We'll see. But I think what I'll do is I'll put a few graves here, and then at some point I need to have like a walkway going here and then down this way. Just like one long, like huge push. Kit bashing is like where you're mashing up different things to get a different outcome. Wrong clip. I have a couple showing downward stuff, so you can kind of check these out. Let me get this on repeat. Captain Crumbles never dropped his second question, so bummer. TikTok, are y'all hearing me right now? I want to make sure my voice is coming through over there. So the palper graves that I'm working on right now, Callie, in the cemetery, I like to think that they like okay, this village, the town where this cemetery is, they have a lot of respect for the dead for whatever reason. This is kind of my headcanon. And so, I mean, yeah, obviously, if you have a lot of wealth, you can have a more extravagant, funeral, a more extravagant gravesite. Or if you, like served in the military, had an honorable death or something, whatever. But the thing is let's say you are relatively poor, maybe you live in the slums, you still get the honor of a grave. They'll let you have a grave site, but it's just a generic, simple grave, and your next of kin or someone has to dig it and then like place the grave marker themselves and maintain it. Thank you, Artful Darkness, for confirming. Much appreciated. Thank you, Atlam. Thank you, thank you. So, what I think about it with the cemetery is people are allowed to, have respect for their dead as long as they do it themselves and maintain it. So they'll probably go dig the grave, right? And then bury their dead and then, have to maintain the site. So that's what the pauper graves are going to be like. But the plots are kind of managed by the cemetery's like caretaker and the church. So they own all the plots, but they'll like if someone dies, they give them a plot and then they have to take care of their family or somebody has to manage it for them. If they don't have next of kin, then of course the caretaker will dig it and then whatever. But this is the reason I'm doing this is these graves will be far less uniform in styling. Look at the headstones. They're all different, right? Some of them are very primitive. Some of them are just like whatever, right? That's what we're going for with these. They're all going to be random and different. Some of them are like very generic and might match each other. Whereas if you come over here to like the graves for the people who served for the chapel over the years and generations, they kind of have a consistent theme, like they're kind of religious looking or all stone and nice looking plots that are larger, right? You come over here to, by the way, in the time of making this map, I have spoken to the devs and they're actually adding like tons of gravestone variations and all sorts of stuff like that. So tombs, all these different things are going to be added. Mausoleums, but there's a ton of diversity in the gravestones now because you can like change a bunch of things about them, make them look slightly different, change like the look of them with a bunch of prefab options. So Wim was saying at last count there was like over 600 plus like variations available now. But notice they'll be far less like set to a single deity, and you can kind of just say this is for a deity in your campaign, right? So yeah, non-denominational, let's just call it that. Sean, ask as many questions as you want. That's the point of the stream, my friend. That's what I'm here for. These streams are AMA format, which means ask me anything. Anyone watching right now can ask any questions related to Dungeon Alchemist. I'm like just Professor Mac, Professor Dan. I'm here to answer your Dungeon Alchemist related questions and make sure you have real-time guidance and assistance. So it's great if you're new to Dungeon Alchemist or if you've been part of the community a while and you're kind of like struggling with a concept, trying to figure out how to build something or build a certain thing or export it a certain way. You've tuned into the right stream. Okay, let's see here. Let's start adding more graves. So I'm thinking I'll use probably one of these. Yeah, I need it smaller. Put this one over there. All right. Nope. Put this one there and I'll just resize it. Roughly the same size. One of those. We'll do a blank kind of just circle cairn type thing. Can do some stone piles. So in the next update, this will likely be added. Hey, thank you for the follow, Poderdeef. I don't know if I pronounced that right or wrong. I apologize if I butchered your name, but thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome. So there is a way to move objects together now, like Atlam is saying. It's kind of a trick. So any object that's stacked on top of another object move as a whole and resize as a whole. They act as a single unit, right? So to that end, if you place like a so this is an abstract, right? You can put whatever image you want in it. So before I do that, I'm going to just put a bunch of objects on it. I'm just going to use the object brush to paint a bunch of cacti on here. Okay. So now I've got all the cacti on here. Notice if I move these, they move as a unit. If I resize it, they resize as a unit. Additionally, you can insert a blank image into this, so a blank PNG. And now it's invisible underneath. And you can move them as a single unit, resize them, etc. Now, that isn't... It's definitely a Band-Aid solution. It works, though. It does work. And stuff like this will likely be remedied in our next update. There'll likely be a multi-selection tool and also what we call the variant creation tool. So variant creation will allow you to create a grouping of objects, like save that grouping of objects and transfer it, you know, from place to place in the map, like copy and paste it, or move it from map to map, even share that grouping of objects on like Steam Workshop, so people can, you know, download that pre-configuration of objects you shared. We already do this already in Dungeon Alchemist quite a bit. Anytime you grab an object that's pre-decorated, like a table that has like bread on it or meat or, you know, just like a desk, anything. If you hit tab before you place the object, you notice there's all these different configurations for it. These are called variants. We're likely including a tool in our next update that will allow you to create variants, save them, and share them. If that makes any sense. Okay, onward. So, Rash, you have to keep rooms at separate heights, at least one square adjacent. So if you generate one room like this, right, and you try to generate another one near it after it's generated, if they're at different heights, it will cause problems. So just to demonstrate, right, we'll generate this one. Maybe. Don't crash this. Maybe. Might have. Hey, what's our view count on YouTube right now? I'm just gonna wait. If it tells you to like close the program or wait. It's RAS? Okay. Not Rash. Kind of, you know, that's probably a good idea that you didn't call yourself Rash. So, if this doesn't crash, I'll show you. Patience. So if I try to do it here, right? If it's at the same height, it's no problem because it's like, hey, this is going to match. If they're at different heights, this all of a sudden will not work, right? But if it's at least one square adjacent away, then it will. So the key is when you're looking at the grid system, you can type Alt-G, by the way, to turn your grid on and off. Thank you, Atlam. Thank you, Half Ogre. Second you get in that square, it won't work. And this is because the AI tool requires some distance between the buildings to generate at different heights. So the terrain can make sense. The geometry of it doesn't look wonky. Also, there's room to transition between the rooms with like a staircase or something if you want to. So if you generate a room down at a lower level, you can likely use an object staircase. Under the object menu, structural. An upstair is ideal, not a downstair, because downstairs cut into the ground right now currently. In fact, they're being depreciated in the next update, and just all the stairs are being merged into a single menu. But you could take something like this, put it over here, say like this, right? I know that looks wonky, but if you have collisions disabled, then you can sink it down and line it up with the structure better, and then you just have the other room below. It is roughly a square that you need to be. That's all. From my experience, that's pretty much the. If you're at an angle, of course the grid will look weird because it doesn't look right. But if you're in a direct top down over it, it'll be the best perspective. Okay. Let us continue. Gonna do more of these kind of like fences here. Kind of just help fence off little plotted areas. The next update will make this easier too, like laying a bunch of the same object. The paint, the object or paint tool, you can click any object and turn it into a new palette, so you can paint like these if you wanted to. Great example of that here. Custom object brush. Very cool. Whoa, TikTok, thank you for all the likes. Much appreciated. So essentially you can select any object and turn it into a brush. Great new feature in the next update. Okay. Half Ogre, Atlam, it looks like y'all saluted me. Funny. Eddie's. Just a little bit. So let's put probably just like one here. Get a little larger. It's always so irritating trying to pick which one to use next. Live long and prosper or go team venture? Which one is it? It's live long and prosper. I can tell now when I looked at it closer. Okay, now we need to come up with headstones for these 6. This is going to be fun. Let's see. Let's go into probably columns. These have really done well so far. A gargoyle. Seems kind of expensive. Some of these broken ones work rather well. They look like they're worn down and old. And I can just shrink it down. the size of the grave and call it a day. Buttress. Nope, that one cannot be. Sink it down in the ground. Kind of big, but wooden, so. Don't like it. I feel like I want to do a few of these like lantern ones. Like just a pillar, pretty easy to use. They're sized, shrunk down, and they kind of light up the area too. Next, I think what I'll do is maybe fence off this area so it's like boxed in somehow. And then it's a little boxed off. We have ourselves kind of this area sealed, and then we can start working pavers down this way and this direction. Oh man, so much pavers. Hate my life when I'm done with those pavers. Actually glad I did it from this side because now I can see where. Okay. Sometimes you gotta overlap the stuff there. That made it work. Okay. So let's add headstones for the rest, and this area is all done. Bring these like cairn pile over just a little bit and shrink down this pile of dirt. It's a little better. Let's do maybe one of these. Get down. Actually really cool. I like that one. Okay. Let's see. Bollards tend to have some interesting ones. One of those over here. At the moment, I'm like just trying to come up with as many interesting ones as I can. Is it interesting? That's right about where the grave or the path needs to cut. Is like right here somewhere. Just kind of eyeballing it. That's so much better aligned. Man, I didn't realize I just kind of free-handed these fences on a grid. Okay. These. Rotate it the direction we want it to go. Really just want it centered on this. This is your abrupt turn stone. Yes. Should make this a lot easier because it's like centered on this grid. Run amok! How you doing, buddy? Oh. We've at least kind of got the start of the path here, which is good. We can put in more graves along this, cram some in here. Really unsure what to do with this. I'm not sure if I like it. What I'm going to do is delete a couple of these. Sorry for the dad grumble there. Oh. Good, how are you doing, my friend? Or can I fit another grave here? Maybe a statue. Definitely need to think about what I'm putting. So I could just put like hedges. Shrink it though. This. Cat fur. Oh, those are in the ground. That ain't gonna help. Better I could put like some plants. I don't like the way that hedge works. little bit more. Maybe a bush. Maybe some flowers. Don't want anything too extravagant over here. These are a little thinner. Size them up and they gives a little room on the side of it. Run amok, is my mic coming through? Streamlab is what I use for the stream, like software and also multi-streaming. Just a heads up to you. I like that kind of half hedge there. We can use that throughout even as like a primitive fencing. Cool. Sound is coming through. Good. Good, good. These broken stones save the day so much. Because you can put them as like a corner piece and then turn directions really abruptly. Still lurking, nice. Run amok, I owe you an apology, man. The last couple weeks, my weekends have been insane. I just haven't had time to really line up with you. I think in the coming weeks, too, it's going to be just nuts because we're getting closer and closer to the update. We're going to just have to find a time that works both, you know, for both of us really well and put it on the books so we can commit to it. I think that'll make it the easiest way. Let's put a statue here. What kind of statue? A lion? Lions are always, like, generally liked. We could turn it this way. Or I could put a fountain or a pond. Triangle pond. A bench is a good idea. I like that. That one's even got a crack in it. Rodrigo, how you doing? At the moment, the best I can give you is kind of a window, which is our window. Our best guess is sometime in Q2, so likely before the end of June. We also can use like these stone benches, which they have like kind of flat ones, you know. They're kind of rough. I kind of like that more. Stone would last way longer, pretty cheap too, especially like this. That L shape again. Two here. I could put a couple shrubs here or something. Where would I put the lion, though, Tim? Like on the edges? I was thinking one of these pointed buxuses, because I can shrink them down. Simple hedge. In the L? Well, then where would... I guess their... because their feet wouldn't go this direction, right? Tight. We'll find a date, my man. I feel awful. Like, it's crazy because the last few weeks and like the last month particularly has just been so much busier than normal as we get closer and closer to Fun with Objects launch, you know? I appreciate you, bearing with me while I'm a bit of a flake at the moment. So, how's everyone's campaigns coming? Did you get a chance to play this weekend? And if you did, how did it go? If you didn't, how'd your session prep go? If your session got canceled, why did it get canceled? Let's hear about it. I think I'll cram another grave in here. There. I need more headstones. Use some of these generic ones I haven't in a minute. Put it on this pile here. More organized. Maybe put this one over here. Get down. Here lies less more. Died from a bullet from a 44. No less, no more. Oh, nice. That's cool, Tim. I'm jealous. My session's next Sunday. Honestly, Rev, it's so funny you say that because so many one-shots really should be three-shots. Because one-shots usually you don't get like the satisfying conclusion you want. It's like a rushed kind of like fade to black conclusion, right? And then if you do a two-shot, usually the first shot, like you don't have the pacing down, and then the second one, it's like you're almost right where you need to be, and then the third one is really to wrap everything up with a bow. Like I found almost every one shot I've been ended up that was satisfying evolved into a three shot or was planned as a three shot from the beginning. I don't know what it is, but like I've been invited to a few stream one shots and I always left a little like underwhelmed because I don't know. You have streamers, right? And they have this personality type, which I admit it, like we like to talk and like hear ourselves talk, I guess, and like it's an easier communication when you're live and no one talks back. It's kind of a one-way thing where you answer as you need to, right? And when there's a bunch of streamers together, it slows things down because they all kind of vie for attention on a stream. And like whether it's intentional or not, right? And they end up taking way longer to accomplish anything. RP happens like a crazy higher rates than normal, and like it takes like 40 minutes for the stream to get off the ground with like intros and everything and tech and anything that might go wrong. So by the time you actually get started, your one shot's like half over time frame wise. Like I swear, most one shots should be either like an 8-hour session or they need to be like 2 to 3 sessions. I think they should just be called, instead of one shots, they should be called like something else entirely. Like let's see here. Like a demo in Dragons? I don't know. That's off the top of my head. But honestly, it'd be funny to come up with a simple name that kind of represents that it's more than just one session, or it's really one long session. That's awesome, Highland Lass. Honestly, that's the dream, isn't it? To have your session last years. Like, who doesn't want their game, with their group of players that they enjoy run for years? $260, dang. That looks really good. So we can do one of these in a while. I've done a cross. Trade this one out for this one. So it'll be bad. Stonework. So our new player that's joining our session this next game, it's replacing our problem player. They finished putting their sheet together and they came over and we looked over their D&D Beyond and rolled 20, made sure everything was all linked up. And I kind of showed them a couple things on D&D Beyond because they've never really used it before. They've used Roll20 a lot, but never used D&DB. So got them all kind of familiarized and answered their questions. And honestly, I'm so glad we did because like they're all pretty much ready to go. And their character is so interesting. So we're going to have her character is a fairy sorcerer. And I think she picked like a lunar sorcerer subclass. It's going to be fun. So I think what I'm going to start doing is just running graves along this side. But I think okay, hear me out. Would it pack more in if I do it like this? Right? Like I just start putting them along this one at a time, like boom, 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 maybe even closer to the paths of the headstones behind. Or would I pack more in if I start doing them kind of like sideways like this and try and cram like 2 or 3 this direction? Right? And then like this, and then a little path in between them going down. So there's just paths every once in a while. Which do you think would fit more? So I think ultimately I'm kind of, there's a lot of dead space if I do it this way. But this way I could fill in like almost every inch with graves. Though it will, the dead space that it does remain is used up by pavers. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's really not that bad. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions here. Yeah, headstones back to back, so it's like there would be another row here, right? And there'd be a headstone basically here and here. So they're just packed in. Well, and remember, like thematically, this portion of the cemetery is pauper graves. So they're going to be like a lot of graves here. Man, I've been to a few cemeteries in my life, and every one of them was so distinct from each other. I've been to small, little, like, cemeteries that are clearly, like, remnants of, like, a western town. I've been to cemeteries that are, like, in the middle of a town, like, in just kind of a grass slab. I've been to cemeteries that are all, like raised, like, you know, where they have the raised graves or, like, you know, like, essentially like that. But, yeah, I want to do some open graves. Here's my problem. I made a mistake. I do have a couple open graves, though, like this one here, right? There's a few throughout the property. But my mistake was that I built the entire map perpendicular to the grid. And our graves that sink into the ground, they have this weird habit of picking the location they go. And they also can't be resized. So essentially they have to fit in certain spots, but I could do one like right here, for instance. I wish I could just resize it or something. But yeah, because these are pauper graves over here, and this is kind of an entryway for them, they're going to be packed in like sardines. Some of them a little bit nicer, but for the most part. Yeah, I'd probably dig the hole manually. A little tricky, though. Yeah, that'll probably be the best way to do it. So the key is finding the size that fits the graves. And not all of them will be like the same style. But like if you look over here, grave pits would be so big. But I could also do like a massive pit that's like, this is like 50 people buried in this one. You know what I mean? Like some mounds. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's gonna kind of evolve as it goes. Yeah, I planned to mix and match. I was more just kind of laying out a template so y'all had an idea of what I was doing. I've been using a lot of the, like, the same ones over and over again, but I get kind of crafty with them. Another thing I was going to do with these ones with the grass, I was considering just hitting them with like a terrain texture. So I could go over and do something with them like stone or... Oh, no, that looks so weird. dirt in there. So that can be mixed up, so it's like different dirt sometimes. I think overall these people have just a general respect for the dead. So the place is well maintained. You know what I mean? Interesting, Mondu. That's cool. I really do wish I could add some of these. I'm sure somewhere here I'll be able to add like one in there that'll make sense. But for right now, it just isn't going to work in this section at least. These ones will definitely be the sardines. Lucky for them, though, getting access to, you know, a royal library is nice. That and some older graves may be less maintained because they were maintained by family members who, you know, have passed, or, you know, like, it's kind of hard to maintain graves of your family members when you're no longer alive yourself either. Trying to figure out what to do with this space. I'm thinking a statue or like a shrub. I shouldn't have to resize this one. Well, it actually does kind of. A water pump? Interesting. Just like one of those like hand pumps. Like one of these, but like sunk into the ground. Because who doesn't want their water from a pump that's right next to dead people? Though this does look like a fun thing to put on the caretaker's property. shoot, where am I? Got lost on my own map. What do you mean by that, Jim? So pretty much everyone in these pauper graves, they provide their own headstone. Some people have enough money to buy one, right? But for the most part, they have to make their own, so they'll just bring whatever they can. Corpse water. Though I do like the idea of like a fountain somewhere, maybe in one of these spaces. I definitely am going to add like plants, sometimes like mushrooms and weird things throughout here. So we're going to add more stuff. It's just developing as we go. And remember, finer details is one of the last things I do. But at the moment, I'm kind of like trying to figure out how to approach this next area. A little torch on the grave could be fun. Might even put like a fountain here in the corner. Like a good use for the corner. Figure it out. Something like this, we'll shrink it down. Fill it with blood. I'm kidding. Bath, yeah. Kind of a bird bath or fountain, either or. Throughout the cemetery, I've had added little things like that. There's like a little bird bath here. There's a nest. I believe there's another bird bath here. Yeah, we could add a couple more. Remember, there will be spaces like this, like little dead corners. Something like this can add a lot of fun. Are you helping me think of anything we can do for gravestones? Because, yeah, I'm starting to run out of ideas, although I could probably reuse a bunch of them at this point. A sword. Down. So I like the idea of a shield. One of these. kind of wooden looking ones. Just a vertical rock. Yeah, I've done a few of those. Look over here. I've done like so many different variations of things. Like just this stone. But it's okay. Some of them repeating isn't the end of the world. What other things we got? I've just been kind of looking at everything. This is a good one if they're like married, because you could have the two touching with like a connected rope, right? Or if they're twins, or any number of different reasons why they have a connected thing. That one looks interesting. I think I've used it, but trying not to use like crosses. I'm trying to like get distinct looking things that don't necessarily, like, it could be anything when you look at it, you know? You think just like a railroad tie basically is the grave headstone? Like a big log? I think I'll put like something on this one. Goodness, it's gonna take a while. Said, wouldn't it? Bardo, that's a good suggestion. Use this one soon. Generic plain. Yeah, unmarked could work too. Or like broken headstones. Things that have worn out. Some of these are fun. It's just kind of slowly come crashing down on the cairn. Also thinking of doing some columbariums because we could cram a ton in, like in areas where there's no room for like graves. You know, like some angled ones like this. It could just be like rows of them. That's how you really cram them in. And look at these overlap at that point, so you can even shrink them down to like a tight. Pretty neat, actually. Might do this for a few of them. It's not lining up with that fence well. We'll do that later. You know, Half Ogre, that's a good question. Personally, I'm not running a campaign at the moment, but we could open that question to the floor if anyone's interested. Though I will say this, I do plan on sharing this map on the workshop, and I've already thought of quite a bit of story to go with it. For starters, okay, the chapel, right, which has a confessional booth, as you can see here, actually has secret passage behind the confessional booth. These little things turn around, right? It's like a secret passage. And then there's an underground area here. So underneath the chapel is an entry point. Also in the back of the chapel, inside of their burial grounds, is another entry point underneath this sarcophagus that we have here, right? And there's also another entry point in the groundskeeper's property right here, underneath this pile of manure. So essentially, I've kind of added some intrigue to this if people wanted to, investigate maybe, things being stolen from graves or bodies, graves being disturbed and bodies being stolen. Though initially my headcanon was this place is highly respected and people will leave like valuables on graves. Though notice this one's fenced off, so they probably feel more confident doing it here. In say the martyrs' graves too, it's probably very poorly looked upon to steal from the martyrs of the cathedral, right? Or the people who have served, their clergy over the generations. I do like that idea of a bonsai tree, though, Edward. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. So, would y'all be upset if I had to wrap up the stream a little early today? So the streams normally run 2 hours from 9 to 11 on Mapmaker Monday, but we actually, my wife has a very important annual doctor appointment today that we can't miss. And I just kind of basically had forgotten about it until the other day because we scheduled it so far in advance and my phone reminded me. And so we actually have to head out for that soon. So I'm going to have to get dressed and a whole bunch of stuff. So we kind of talked about potentially squeezing off a little, just leaving a little early today so I could squeeze out a few extra minutes to be able to rush her there, well, at least get there a little bit safer instead of kind of speed demoning it there, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that if y'all wouldn't mind. That way I can, get her there on time with time to spare and everything we need to do is taken care of. I'm going to put a few more gravestones and then we'll wrap it up. I just want to put a few things over here. Just a pull. Brightness of the Oh, I appreciate that. So my wife, she's immunocompromised, let's just say that. And so she takes like medication to help manage it. And some of her medication, if you take it over a long period of time, can have like adverse side effects. So they have to monitor that pretty regularly with like tests and visits and stuff. So one of her checkups is today, which, no big deal. Oh my goodness. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, though, I do need to wrap it up. So it looks like we got a good section of graves, you know, kind of figured out the trajectory of the rest of the pauper graves going down this way, right? We also added in some pavers, finished out kind of some of this section, added in some decor, which makes the place feel that much more alive and fun. I do need to figure out what to put in this corner. We'll figure it out. Maybe another grave. But yeah, we're going to be packing them in tight as we go down this way. Sardines, you say? And oh my goodness, this is going to take a while. At the current rate of building, hopefully next week I'll buckle down and just push out a ton of graves next session, so we get a ton of building. I think what I'll do is just do all the graves, and then we'll go through and do all the headstones, because I shift gears a lot. I'm like, oh, let's do 6 graves, and then 6 headstones, and then some pavers. I think what I need to do is just, paver all the way down. Assembly line it, right? Graves. Really only switch to put these down, like the intermediate pathways. I appreciate y'all being here today. Had a lot of fun hanging out with y'all. Mapmaker Monday is definitely one of my favorite streams. It's fun to just hang out, build, answer questions, be here with a bunch of like-minded, GMs and cartographers. Thank you for being here, Raven. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for participating in Mapmaker Monday. Our next stream is on Wednesday. It's office hours in our Discord. It's a Discord exclusive stream because they can't be looped into our multi-streams every week. So we set them up with a special stream every week. Office hours is great because we showcase maps and assets from the Steam Workshop, provide real-time guidance and support, answer questions related to development, and showcase teasers and whatnot. So you can tune into that stream, hang out, lurk or ask questions, and just kind of chill and get the general information and news about what's going on with development with our next update, Fun with Objects, hoping that will launch before the end of the quarter, so the end of June, most likely. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making utility available on Steam. Allows you to build maps for your fantasy settings for games like D&D or Pathfinder, allowing you to build very intricate, detailed maps, spending all the time you want detailing them, or you can make your maps using our procedural generation tools that save you tons of time generating environments, rooms, etc., so you can build maps in a snap. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to run a quick Dungeon Alchemist theme ad, and then we're going to end the stream. Appreciate you all being here and being understanding about me taking off about 15 minutes early. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is for you. Back out.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before...
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him.
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever. Find family. Kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this? Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the fabled realm of
Goyak-Ta, please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered map maker, on Steam today.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Wednesday for office hours or for the multi-stream on Saturday with the Dam Challenge. tuning in. I give a damn. Back out.